Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, the mummy. I love the Egyptian aesthetics, particularly for horror and for metal music. I was walking around Walmart and I saw this. Years ago, I had gotten the DVD collections of Dracula, all the Universal stuff, the Wolfman, Frankenstein. I always said the Wolfman is always my favorite Universal monster, but I always liked, obviously the Mummy as well. The original film. It's a brilliant film. Yeah, it has the Dracula template down to even the same actor that plays Van Helsing being the person in it that fights Imhotep. Right? But yeah, the film, I mean, just the creepiness of it. The opening scene where, I mean, technically in the first film, Karloff is the mummy only for the beginning, right? But with the scene where he is revived by the guy reciting the scroll of the way it was done, man. That was one of the best, most chilling scenes I think in one of these old films. The way it was done, everything. The opening of it is great with the miniature where you see like a sphinx and it. Then you see the mummy, the title, literally in a pyramid. Good miniature work there, always eye catching, and the story itself, very. What happens to this guy, you know, and it's funny too how the in the end, he pays the ultimate sacrifice, a horrible fate for a woman he loves, and in the end, the woman or her spirit, the reincarnated form, will not return the favor. So it really is. He really is a tragic, sympathetic character. Now, in terms of the mummy, one of the things which will probably put me at odds with most of you or at most right wingers is that when I watch these films, I kind of root for the mummy. I root for the even the cult, right? Or these Europeans come in with their science and their archaeology and their museums and their very excuse me and ancestors of all your progressive movements coming to these places and taking all these objects for science, right? Showing very little respect, showing, I mean, less than respect for the ancient, for the traditional, for things that are not, that for mysteries that should be better left unexplained. Uh, so I kind of root for the mummy and the cults or whatever getting revenge. Is it? Oh, it's colonialism. I please care about this. The whole idea of that is just an inversion and a dialectic of the same process that leads these people to come and raid these ancient things. Uh, I know you guys get that, but most people don't. Right? Um, the people telling you to feel bad about a colonialism are the descendants of the pith helmet wearing scientists. Okay, and you and me are closer to the traditional, the Egyptians, even if they be of Mohammedan faith, but who still remember the old gods. We have more in common with them. That's a point I try to get across to people, but it's usually to little avail. Okay, and in terms of the films, like I said, I kind of I like the Mummy. Eh, Really, and even in the other films. Remember, the Mummy had sequels. Okay, so I'll go through here, just get a little short gist of them. The original one, of course, is the best. I mean, Karloff. Else can I say? Now, these films that come out, The Mummy's Hand is like kind of like a. It's my least favorite of these films. Um, it's not a sequel. There's a new mummy, although the same thing happens to him. And these Americans come, especially the annoying guy from Brooklyn, talking about Greenpoint and making all these jokes. I really have an antipathy for this character more than I can even imagine. And essentially, it's what kind of there's some scary scenes in it, but it's pretty much like an adventure. And this is now the mummy, okay, the original scene in the original one, where Karloff, where Imhotep is revived when the guy speaks from the scroll of life. A chilling scene, even more chilling in that the original mummy, there's no soundtrack, there's no background music, just like Dracula. The silence, the lack of a soundtrack, which a silent film needed, which now is not as important in a talkie. The silence adds to the horror of that original scene. But of course, Karloff is only a living mummy in that short period. These other films, the mummy is the killing machine, Terminator mummy that you come to know and love. Right? And the mummy's hand is where you see this mummy come and try to attack these interlopers. But it's just like I said, there's too much of that, that old Brooklyn humor that I can't deal with too well. Okay. Well, that gets corrected. And these three films here, The Mummy's Tomb, The Mummy's Ghost, The Mummy's Curse, they always get kind of like, oh, these are horrible films, okay? But what they have in common is that Lon Chaney Jr., okay, the Wolfman, right? He plays the mummy in this. Okay? These three films are very dark. These three films are very downbeat. These three films, particularly, actually all of them, Karis the Mummy, okay, played by Lon Chaney, becomes in some ways a sympathetic. He evokes scenes where the mummy struggles because he sees a reincarnation of the woman he loves. Now you see this later in Hammer's Mummy, which is essentially all these films combined, where you see Karis see the reincarnation of the woman that he went through probably the worst fate anyone could suffer in existence, and you see the only in the eyes you see it, okay, and maybe in the gestures of the hand. Very underrated. I like the Mummy's Tomb because it takes the Mummy's Hand, which is like kind of an upbeat adventure film, and it corrects what happens in that film. Let's say, okay, and yeah, the ending of that they try to make it happy somewhat, but it's not really happy to me. And then the Mummy's Ghost has an extremely downbeat ending, very downbeat, very tragic. Okay, and you see more of Karis, the mummy, this killing machine mummy, but he's only serving, this cult, who, in my opinion, the cult is sort of justified in what they're trying to do. They're getting revenge. These people stole their sacred items. Okay, now they're supposed to be the villains in this, but I don't get that. Okay, and I'm not a guilt-ridden liberal. You know that. The Mummy's Curse is the final one. So these three films with Lon Chaney Jr. as the Mummy, I think are brilliant, amazing movies, and that the fact that the Hammer Mummy, which is a great film, combine them together, shows what could have been, what these things were about. Especially the scene in the Mummy's Curse, which, yes, I know they mysteriously go from New England settings to a Louisiana setting, right? But when the reincarnated Ananka, when she rises from the dirt, if anything, it probably influenced Anne Rice a lot in her vampire work. When you have the vampires literally living in the soil to recover from injuries and rising again, the scene where she rises up out of the dirt, really well done, really good. And the woman who plays the Ananka in this, okay, very very beautiful woman. When you see that woman, very like women from another time. It's almost like my soul, my spirit, my DNA, and maybe yours too, longs for a woman like that. But regardless, and rounding it out is a film I used to watch all the time on Channel 11, with the Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy. Yo, Abbott and Costello. all these old comedy acts were great. Ivan and Costello coming out of vaudeville. Um, it, this film is hilarious, fucking great. It's kind of a complex, scenario, but Bud and Lou, uh, Lou Costello. I always thought Costello was an Italian name. It's an Irish name. Obviously, he was not Irish. His name is Castiglione, right? But it took the name Costello. But man, funny movie. When I was watching it again, there's some pretty scary scenes in it, intense scenes. Just but funny in that old humorous way, and not just the slapstick. Everyone's like Abbott and Costello, or just the slapstick, and Costello's yelling, Abbott, and running around. There was a lot of good innuendos, a lot of funny lines, clever lines that these men had. So and yeah, of course, Abbott and Costello, what is it? Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is another classic film, uh, which is funny, right? The mummy is never taken as joke, okay? And the whole idea of the cults who are trying to avenge the mummy's uh, whole thing being desecrated. It becomes an interesting little thing of intrigue, like a three-way dance there. But regardless, Abbott and Costello, the mummy is funny, okay? And is worthy. But like I said, the original one is the best, and the ones with Lon Chaney, these three, very underrated. I don't care what anybody says. Very underrated, rather dark films. I like how they correct what happens in the mummy's hand. The mummy gets avenged in the mummy's tomb, and yeah, this is where the mummy begins as the killing machine. Okay, who is he killing? Who is he getting revenge? Uh, the mysteries of Egypt, the mysteries of the past. Have some damn respect. Leave it alone. And everything doesn't need to be shown and known. And that's what I like about these films, getting them across. Anyway, that's my little sum up of the Mummy films. And, that's, the horror is just beginning. Yes.